Hello and welcome back to the KCC channel. I'm Rob and I hope you are having a wonderful day today. Today I have 3 stories for you, and in one of them, Karen takes it way too far. Let's jump right in. This story comes to us from Icy Entertainment 18, the time I got chilied. This is an old story, and for reasons that will become clear, I'm not absolutely sure of every single fact. In the summer of my 14th year, my mom sent me to the supermarket, about 2 miles away, specifically to buy some cream of mushroom soup for a recipe she was planning to cook for dinner. I should say that at 14, I was skinny but tall for my age, and it wasn't unusual for people just meeting me to think I was a couple of years older. Anyway, I biked to the store. Mom had specifically wanted a 4-pack of the soup. I didn't bother with a shopping cart since I was only there for the one thing. The supermarket had about a dozen shelves of different brands of soup. The brand my mom wanted was in a white and red can, and they all looked alike. The varieties weren't alphabetized, and for some time I took cans down to look at them. I found single cans of the mushroom soup, but Mama told me to get a 4-pack. While I was seeking one of those at chest level, a middle-aged woman bumped me, not hard, with her shopping cart. I stepped closer to the shelves to let her pass, but of course, she didn't want to pass. "Hey you," she said in a grouchy voice. "Stop stalking for a minute. I want some bouillon cubes, and the place on the shelf's empty. Go in the back and bring some out." "I don't work here," I said, turning back toward the shelves and finally spotting 4-packs of tomato soup and cream of mushroom soup on the very bottom shelf. I bent down to get the soup, and then my head seemed to explode and I passed out. I don't really remember much except seeing an eruption of yellow light, and then everything went dark. Literally the next thing I remember is a hefty guy in a white paper cap and a butcher's apron kneeling beside where I sprawled on the floor, pushing something against my head and saying, "Easy, easy, don't move." The woman loomed over him screaming, "Fire him! He attacked me! I'll sue!" Then my head was pounding and I saw what looked like a huge pool of blood all around my face. I tried to ask what happened, but kept zoning in and out. Then I was being rolled on a gurney and 2 EMTs in green scrubs were loading me into an ambulance. One of them drove, the other rode in back with me and asked me how many fingers she was holding up and shined a flashlight in my eyes. Then she said, "Could you hold this against the wound? Press it tight." It was a gauze pad and it already felt soaked. My whole head ached. The ride to the hospital didn't seem to take more than 30 seconds. But as I say, my memory is wonky. Somewhere along the way, the EMT asked for my name, address, and phone number and asked if I had any ID. I had my high school ID card in my wallet, which was in my jeans pocket. By the time they rolled me into the ER, my mom met us, yelling, "What happened?" I did not know, but the EMT said a woman in the supermarket threw a heavy can of chili at him and hit him on the side of the head. Why did she do that? I told her I didn't know. We were in a curtained off area of the ER, and a young doctor came in, looked at me, took some pictures, and told me I needed stitches. He poured something into the wound that sizzled and stung like crazy. He gave me a couple of injections to anesthetize the area. A nurse shaved off some hair over my right ear, and then I could sort of feel the doctor putting in the 9 stitches it took to close the wound. But they weren't painful, just weird tugs. He explained that scalp wounds bleed a lot, gave my mom a prescription for a painkiller, and gave her a photocopy of the printout with concussion and wound care instructions on it. Told me to rest and drink plenty of fluids and to stay awake until bedtime. But Mom and I couldn't return home right away. As we processed out of the hospital, a policeman met us and told Mom to follow his car back to the supermarket. He took us to an office in back where the woman was still complaining loudly that I had attacked her. By then, maybe 2 hours had passed, and she was still screeching. The policeman asked us what happened. All I could say was, this lady wanted me to get out of her way, and I did, but she hit me. "Liar," the woman yelled, her face beet red. "I told him to get me a jar of bouillon cubes from the back of the store, and he cursed at me and slapped me." The guy in the butcher's apron, Mr. Butcher, was there too, and he said, "Officer, that's not true. I saw everything. She spoke to him, he leaned down to get something from a shelf, and she picked up a jumbo can of chili and threw it hard, laying open his scalp. He didn't touch her. I didn't hurt him, the woman bellowed. I was just trying to get his attention. Fire him. Mr. Butcher said, lady, he's just a kid. He doesn't even work here, and he didn't slap you, and you hurt him plenty. The policeman had me turn sideways to the woman. Look at the shoulder and side of his shirt, he said. It was actually a yellow school jersey with black trim, but I had a huge blotch of drying blood on that side. Plus, my head was bandaged, so you'd think I was wearing a topless turban. Then, the policeman asked me if I wanted to press charges. I didn't know what to say, but my mom cut in and said, "You're darn right we do." I'd never heard her curse before, but she was mad. To top it all off, someone had stolen my bike from the parking lot, and Mom was so upset she even forgot to buy the soup. By the time we started for home, everything had sunk in, and I was having a horrible headache and was shaking and trying not to cry. I asked my mom, why would she do that? From what I was wearing, she had to know I didn't work for the store. My mom, with a death grip on the steering wheel, said between her teeth, "I'll tell you why a woman like her would do that. It's because she's..." Well, I won't repeat it here. But Mom proved that she knew a lot more curse words than I'd ever supposed. The woman did get arrested and charged with assault, but by the time she came up for trial, it was fall and school had started. I didn't have to testify, though they did show photos of my blood on the floor of the supermarket and my head wound. I think the doctor took them, but don't remember for sure. Both Mr. Butcher and my mom were at the trial and testified though. Later, she said the charge was aggravated assault and battery, but finally, the jury convicted the woman for simple assault. She got 6 months in jail, suspended, a fine, and had to pay my family back for my medical expenses. I was disappointed that she didn't also have to buy me a new bike. Though I didn't have a serious concussion, it does bother me that my memory of the whole thing is so spotty. However, if I want to remind myself of this occasion, I just have to run my fingers along the right side of my head, about 2 inches above my ear, and I can still feel the scar. Jumping down to the comment section on this one, there's one from a user called Mamagon123. It says, "Your mom showed a lot of restraint. I have kids, and if someone did that to one of my kids, I'm confident I'd be arrested." Okay, so I don't begin to understand the legal system in the USA, but in this case, couldn't they now make a civil lawsuit against this woman? That suspended sentence is absolutely bullcrap. But I think a civil lawsuit would be much easier to win now because there was a previous guilty verdict. OP, I hope you and your mom go after this person for all you can, because she deserves to be taught a lesson. You don't do things like this to people. You need to pay for it. And a suspended sentence is not enough. Take her to the cleaners. Make her pay, please. This story comes to us from Billy RKO 1987. You look like you work here. I recently went to a disc replay. I'm browsing around through horror movies, video games, and wrestling DVDs, usually in this order. Well, I'm checking horror movies and I see one that I decide to look at. I'm reading the back of the DVD case of it, and I get the familiar presence we all know and never love. A woman who looks about low 20s is at the cash register, waiting, looking like her eyes are machine guns, and I'm basically getting pummeled. She tells me to stop wasting her time and check her out. I told her I don't work here, and hopefully someone will be there for her soon. That was a wrong answer. She didn't really listen because she says she doesn't care if I'm on lunch and wants service immediately. Again, I apologize and tell her I don't work here. I figured by now she'd understand. Wrong. I go to the video games. I am browsing. At this point, a woman is at the register. She sees that, but decided to follow me around. I turn to her and say, the worker is at the register. She can help you. I don't because I don't work here. She says, and I quote, "You look like you work here." I laugh and say, nope. Again, it falls on deaf ears. I buy a game, Madden 95 for Super Nintendo. As I'm leaving, the young woman followed me to the entrance and said I need to help her. The worker called out to her that I don't work there and she'd help her. Well, I'm walking to my car and the young woman is following me. I get in my car, I drive to Panda Express to get food. I walk inside and there she is, parked next to my car. I get my food, get in my car, and then it hit me. I can avoid the road construction on my way home, or give her the pleasure of being in the slow waiting game of what is the road construction a few minutes from my home. I picked the road construction. So I'm in the middle lane, the young delusional woman is unfortunately behind me. I'm purposely waiting for an opening to the right lane, just enough that I can make it and enjoy knowing the torture I just caused. I see a gap behind a truck, I gun for it, and I can just feel the curse words spewing from her. Even though it's 3 lanes, 2 go to the left and the 3rd lane goes to the right, like a fork in the road basically. I took the right knowing I can easily avoid the traffic while the ticked off Karen is bumper to bumper cursing me. The disc replay is the one in Countryside, Illinois. All that construction there came in handy that day. Jumping down to the comment section, there's one from a user called Cindy Spenson. It says, "You were being stalked and followed and didn't get scared?" OP responded to this comment and said, "When I was growing up, I was bullied a lot. During school, after school, and nobody, teachers and the principal, didn't stop it. In 8th grade, I saved a girl from my classmates, and I still have scars all over me from everything that happened. It's a day I never forgot. I had a choice to walk home or make a difference. I decided to make a difference and stood up to my classmates. I unfortunately suffered many injuries. I survived that, so I wasn't afraid of the Karen." Wow, OP, that's a crazy story, and I'm glad you're doing better now, but you really should still worry about the Karen, because somebody who's willing to jump in their car and follow you, they're not mentally okay, and you never know what they could do. Don't take any chances. If I realized that she was following me, I probably would have driven to the closest police station. Maybe then she would have gotten the idea, but I still would have reported her plate number because she's crazy and something needs to be done. This story comes to us from An Upright Wild Hare. I did wind up getting the eggs. I finally made an account so I could start replying to and share some stories of my own. And barely a week later, I already have a new one to tell. Also, I really wasn't sure what to title this. Sorry. If I had $1 for every time I got mistaken for working in a store I was shopping at or just wandering around in, I wouldn't ever have to worry about grocery prices again. I don't know exactly what it is about me that does it. I mean, I keep several of my keys on a carabiner that I hook on my pants, so I jangle when I walk. But that can't be the only thing that does it, because even when I don't have that, I get accosted by other shoppers. After we sorted the confusion out, I did once have an older woman say, "Well, you just look like you know what you're doing." Thank you, I think. I didn't have the heart to tell her. I have never known what I was doing. But I guess my face makes me look far more competent than I am when I'm focused on trying to remember what I even came to the store for. All this to lead into, it just happened again while I was out getting groceries, but this time I was dressed in eye crime levels of clashing, bright colors to try to ward off the threats like a poisonous tree frog. I genuinely have no idea how anyone could see this and still think, finally, a staff member. And yet, I was hunched over, looking at the refrigerated section, trying to do math in my head about whether or not I could actually get through a 30-pack of eggs on my own, when I heard shuffling and saw movement out of the corner of my eye. I turned and saw this random woman, oh so casually, picking up things in my cart and looking at it before setting it back down and continuing to rummage, like my future food was a bargain bin. Now, the last few years messed up a lot of people's ability to interact with other humans out in the wild. But really? You're just gonna do that? Hello, I said awkwardly, trying to get her attention while being completely baffled as to what this lady thought she was doing. She didn't stop or take her eyes away from my groceries as she answered, "Hello, don't mind me, I'm just looking." I stared for a couple of seconds. "Why are you looking through my cart though?" I asked. She finally paused and glanced up, and the way her face fell made it seem like she was seeing me for the very first time. Oh my god, I'm so sorry. I thought you were putting things back on the shelves. Oh my gosh." I actually felt bad for her with how mortified she looked, but seriously, how'd we end up in this situation? Though, again, the past few years made everyone a lot weirder on average, so I reminded myself to cut her some extra slack. "I'm definitely not," I said, and she stumbled over more apologies while looking me up and down like she couldn't even understand why she thought I worked there. I extended her an olive branch by adding, "Did you need something? I can probably tell you where I found it." She said no and apologized again, but at least now we both knew neither of us was upset. She wished me a good night and wandered off down the nearest aisle and out of my line of sight. At least this time it wasn't a bad experience. Poor lady seemed nice, just had a lapse in something, and I got this weird, inconsequential story to tell out of the interaction. So there's that too. I hope she found whatever it was she was shopping for, and that this moment doesn't haunt her for the rest of her life. Jumping down to the comment section on this one, there's one from a user called Bitter Fishing Butt. It says, "Yeah, she's gonna think about this moment a lot. Like, this is gonna live rent-free in her head forever." OP responded to this one and said, "As someone who still remembers all the embarrassing stuff I did going as far back as childhood, I fully believe it." You know, it's nice to have a light-hearted fun story on this subreddit because a lot of these are hostile encounters and this one isn't, so it's kind of refreshing. I agree with OP on this one. Yes, I definitely remember a lot of the embarrassing stuff I did as a kid, and sometimes things that I haven't remembered for a long time will pop up and I'll be like, "Oh my gosh, was I really like that?" But now I get to spend my days making my kids embarrassed, so I guess it's come full circle. Check out all 3 OPs linked in the description down below. I thank you for watching. I hope you have a wonderful day, and we'll see you tomorrow.